Honorable members, the first item on the order paper is a motion in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. May I recognize the Chief Whip?
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I move that this House designate Dr. M.Q. Ndlozi to replace Mr. Gadi, who was serving in the Magistrate Commission. This is in line with Section 3.1 of Magistrate Commission Act of number 90 of 1993. Thank you very much. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections as to the motion as raised by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party? No objections, agreed to. The second motion on the order paper and the last motion on the order paper is also in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. I now recognize the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I move that the House suspends Rule 290, subsection 2A, which provides inter alia that the debate on the second reading of the bill may not commence before at least 3 assembly working days have elapsed since the committee's report was tabled. For the purposes of conducting the second reading today on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, I therefore move that this House waive this particular rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections, agreed to. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of report of Standing Committee on Appropriations on Division of Revenue Amendment Bill.
Thank you. I will call the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Buthelezi, to take the platform on virtual. Honorable Buthelezi.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, compatriots, ladies and gentlemen, the African National Congress supports the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B9 2020. Firstly, allow me to thank all those who have made it possible for us to table the report today to this august House. The honorable members of the Standing Committee on Appropriations and its support staff, Minister of Finance, Deputy Minister of Finance, Director General and Team Treasury, FFC, PBO, and the members of the public who participated in this process. We are now all aware of the black swan of COVID-19, which is not only affecting our country, but the whole world. This pandemic has impacted on both aggregate demand and aggregate supply negatively. This has resulted in all the fiscal indicators deteriorating to unprecedented levels. It is now common cause that we are now faced with a growth forecast of negative 7.2%, under collection of revenue of about 300 billion rand, the debt to GDP ratio of 81.8%, consolidated budget deficit of 15.7% of GDP, and most importantly, unemployment rate of 80.1%.
Honorable Buthelezi, I'm sorry to come before you. There's another motion that was, the report that was supposed to be adopted before you speak. That is the, no, we did. We did. Oh, okay. I understand now. My apologies, comrades and colleagues. Before you speak, there must be a motion to that report that is there. The Secretary, after reading the first order, can you read the first order again?
Consideration of report of Standing Committee on Appropriations on Division of Revenue Amendment Bill.
May I recognize the Chief Whip?
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chair, I move that this report be tabled and be adopted by the House. Thank you.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections agreed to. I come back to you, the Honorable, okay, let me just say, the Secretary read the second order of the day.
Second reading debate, Division of Revenue Amendment Bill.
Thank you very much. That is where now I call you Honorable Buthelezi. We will restart your minutes. Thank you. If you can start from the beginning. Thank you.
Greetings again, honorable members. The African National Congress supports the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, Bill 9, 2020. Firstly, allow me to thank all those who have made it possible for us to table the report today to this August House. The honorable members of the Standing Committee on Appropriations, its support staff, the Minister of Finance and his Deputy, Director General and Team Treasury, FFC, a PBO, and the members of the public who participated in this process. We are now all aware of the black swan of COVID-19, which is not only affecting our country, but the whole world. This pandemic has negatively impacted both aggregate demand and aggregate supply. This has resulted in all the fiscal indicators deteriorating to unprecedented levels. It is now common cause that we are now faced with a growth forecast of negative 7.2%, and a collection of revenue of about 300 billion rand, debt to GDP ratio of 81.8%, consolidated budget deficit of 15.7% of GDP, and high rate of unemployment of 30.1%. Unfortunately, while the ability of government to supply services and public goods to our people is under stress, the expectations from our people are high. The Division of Revenue Amendment Bill is trying to reconcile these two, a classical economic dilemma, many wants limited resources. Honorable House Chair, with this background, allow me to dedicate my debate to my countrymen and women who have perished because of this stealth enemy, coronavirus. We also wish those who are still fighting this enemy, including members of this House, a speedy recovery. To honor them, we attempt to, among other things, use this DORA bill to deal with the challenges of inequality, poverty, and starvation. COVID-19 pandemic has accentuated the ills of apartheid. Faced with this enemy, let us be reminded of the wise words of President Mandela when he argued, I quote, "As long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality exist in our world, none of us can truly rest. Millions of people are trapped in the prison of poverty. It is time to set them free," unquote. I'm happy to say, honorable members, that with all the constraints, the ANC has not checked on its responsibility to the people of this country, especially the poorest of the poor, the economically marginalized, women and the rural poor. It says without any equivocation that it remains a developmental state. Of the total consolidated spending of 1.9 trillion rand, the division among the three spheres of government is as follows. National government allocation increases by 32 billion rand to 1.19 trillion rand. Provincial equity share remains unchanged at 538 billion rand. Local government share increases by 11 billion rand to 85.7 billion rand. The Division of Revenue Adjustment Bill is a combination of additional funding, reprioritization, and postponing of some programs and projects. Honorable members, it is well and good to talk about these billions and trillions, which are being divided through the bill. But what we know is that despite the pain of raising money and paying for it, certain departments and agencies are still unable to spend money. This follows that money is not a panacea of all the problems. Let me just share what are the consequences of failure to spend money. One, the most serious one is that South Africans are denied the services or goods that they were going to receive. Two, the opportunity costs of that money are very high. Other departments or institutions would have put that money to good use. Three, we're having a very huge deficit. This means as the government, we borrow money and pay a price for that. Just to illustrate the sheer wastage involved, We borrow money at around about 8%. The money in the bank may be getting 3% return. It means we are losing 5% of that money. Just to illustrate the point, a 1 billion rand in the bank, we are losing 50 million rand. This stretches credulity to the limit as to why we would want to do that, just losing 50 millions like that. Honourable members, there's no doubt that if nothing changes, we are heading towards the fiscal cliff. If we were to continue on spending without other changes in the economy, we may find ourselves in a debt crisis. The minister emphasized that, I quote, the special adjustment budget is a bridge to the October 2020 medium-term budget policy statement, unquote. In the meantime, government will be working on a set of interventions to stabilize public finances. Those interventions will mainly be aimed at restoring economic activity to build both business and consumer confidence. Before House Chair, this should not be understood to mean that the government and other economic players should wait until the October MTBPS. There are things which cannot wait for October. For instance, start manufacturing the PPEs and ventilators. It was embarrassing for a country like ours to even import simple masks. Honourable members, ECOS 101 tells us that imports contribute negatively to the economy. The South African Reserve Bank has decreased its interest rate by 250 basis points. This makes the price of money cheaper. Private companies should take advantage of this and invest in new capacity. Serious businesses start their own businesses. Bayeke House Chair lento yabo yokuzibiza ngosomabhizinisi kodwa bebe bekhongozela belinde ukuthenga amabhizinisi kahulumeni for next to nothing. Others run these businesses down because obhululu babo balinde ukuzixosha phansi. That is not right and it cannot be right. Thirdly, with government spending so much money, it is important that procurement of goods and services should be done in line with the laws of this country, like broad-based black economic empowerment, to ensure that we deal with the steward ownership of the economy. Infrastructure programs should not wait for the MTBPS. This is the backbone of inclusive growth. Talking about the importance of infrastructure in reigniting and kickstarting the economy, His Excellency President Ramaphosa said, I quote, in the long run, infrastructure investment increases the capacity of the economy, reducing the cost of transport and capacity and reliability of key services like electricity and municipal services, unquote. We also welcome the tax relief measures by national treasurers and SARS. These include VAT, provisional tax, excise interventions, etc. This will allow businesses to augment their cash flows. However, we are of the firm view, honourable members, that it cannot be a blank check. We are worried about the economy which is building jobs. A quid pro quo should be the preservation of jobs. Otherwise, it makes absolutely no sense for South Africans to help companies for them to retrench workers the following day. The same can be said about some of our SOCs which are supported by taxpayers' money, only to find out that they are busy retrenching workers. We do not think, House Chair, it is correct for SABC, for instance, to retrench about 600 workers when we are faced with this terrible pandemic. We have learned with concern that less than 10% of the 200 billion rand facility by the South African Reserve Bank has been accessed by business. This is counterproductive. This money was aimed at first and foremost to help businesses. This again would have assisted in protecting jobs. On a macroeconomic level, this is working against what the central bank is trying to do, getting liquidity into the economy. In this regard, we are urging the Minister and Treasury to consider using other channels and institutions to facilitate access to this money. Why are we not using DFIs and provincial development institutions? I'm referring to institutions like LIMDEF, Free State Development Corporation, KZN Growth Fund, ITALA, etc. This will allow even rural businesses to benefit from these funds and also contribute towards reigniting the economy and creating much needed employment opportunities. This SOS message was echoed by Mr. Hanki Matabane, CEO of Black Business Council on Monday morning. He decried the fact that black business is unable to access this relief package. We urge quick intervention by the Minister of Finance to ensure that black business and SMMEs benefit from this relief package. Let me reiterate what this division is not. ngiyanazi phela bontaba kayikhonjwa nizosuke nikhulume sengathi sekuyi-MTDS asikafiki lapha bambana amatomi izobonana ngo-October futhi this one going to agbare vessels jy moet nie hier kom en praat oor Dora nie wat is altyd afwesig van ons committee af.
Dankie baie.
Tolle agbare.
Baie dankie.
Thank you. The African National Congress supports the Division of Revenue Management.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hill Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to
Madam
try
Chair.
it. I'm not sure if it's into your face.
Thank you. Madam Chair, there are times in politics when circumstances come together to bring into stark relief the choices that we face. And today is such a day. So I'm very glad to be having this debate today because there are three important things happening in South Africa that we should take careful note of. Firstly, we are here considering a division of revenue which imposes very severe cuts on provincial governments, particularly in the areas of health and education. On the same day, an investigation by the BBC has revealed the horror and gross human rights abuses taking place in the Eastern Cape Health Department as hospitals collapse under the weight of years of corruption, mismanagement, and cadre deployment. And third, the Treasury is today required to give a letter of guarantee that it will again bail out the defunct and bankrupt SAA. Three things, all on one day, all connected and all related. Every decision in government is a choice between often conflicting priorities. So if you want to see what a government really believes in and what their priorities are, look at the choices they make. Today's bill cuts 2.2 billion rand from provincial government's infrastructure grants for building schools and hospitals. But worse than that, provinces are left to find 16 billion rand in what the government calls reprioritizations, just another euphemistic word for cuts. The message in this budget is that provincial governments are on their own in the fight against COVID-19. Speaking to the country on Tuesday, the 21st of April this year, the President promised, and I quote, an extraordinary health budget of 20 billion rand to fund the health response to coronavirus. Where is this money? It's not in the budget we're discussing today. It's nowhere to be found. The President did not say that provincial governments would have to find this money themselves. The evidence is that the President misled the country when he made that commitment. For it is certainly not been honoured. There is no 20 billion for health. The second development today is the BBC's shocking exposure of what's really happening in the health system in ANC-governed provinces like the Eastern Cape. If one thought that life ACDP was the lowest that the ANC could go in human rights, today's revelations show that gross abuses are taking place every day in the Eastern Cape and on a much larger scale. We've seen COVID patients struggling to breathe, fighting with one another to get access to an oxygen bottle. We've seen rats drinking blood on the floor, passages flooded with brown wastewater, and doctors telling of how mothers and their unborn children are dying, waiting for medical attention. We've seen no progress in 4 months on building field hospitals. The President again last week or the other night said there's 28,000 additional beds. Another deception, I'm afraid. There are no beds. Where there are beds, they have no equipment, no staff, and no oxygen. And that is why the final event today is so important. The prospect of another bailout for SAA. This cannot be allowed to happen. Now is the time for Minister Mboweni to draw a line in the sand and refuse to fund the new SAA. He has repeatedly said that we cannot afford it and we should not do it. And yet today the ANC is likely to force him to do it. If he caves to ANC pressure now, he will have lost the battle that is the prelude to all the other battles to come. And he will have to seriously reconsider his own position in this government. We are now putting the Minister on notice. Any attempt to use his emergency powers under Section 16 of the PFMA will be illegal and we will take action to stop him. This is why I love budgets, Madam Chair. Ministers and presidents can stand on TV and at this podium and say whatever they like. but it is in the detail of the budget that their true priorities are really revealed. And today, the priorities of this government are revealed in the choice to hang provinces out to dry in the fight against COVID, and to leave patients without air, unable to breathe, dying needlessly, and instead to fund a state-owned airline vanity project instead. That is the choice this government is making. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lewis. Honorable Ntlangwini.
Thank you, House Chair. Greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, our Chief Whip, and all officials. We would like yet again to send our heartfelt condolences to the family of the Excellency Queen Zinzi Mandela on her passing. The Division of Revenue Bill before the National Assembly is an act of Parliament in terms of Section 214 of the Constitution to ensure that there is equitable division of revenue collected by SARS nationally amongst the national, provincial, and local fees, including conditional grants. The Division of Revenue Bill was supposed to be a piece of legislation, Chair, to transform society. It was supposed to ensure that we reverse apartheid partial planning. The Division of Revenue was supposed to be instrumental in ensuring that parts of the country and municipalities that do not have economic activities, not because of their own doing, but as a consequence of apartheid economy, receives funds to deliver services. However, the reality is that the equitable share formula, which informs the Division of Revenue, is based on neoliberal, outdated assumptions that have failed all over the world. The equitable share formula is based on the assumption that, number one, there are decentralized economic activities in all parts of the country, and number two, municipalities have the capacity to collect revenue from citizens. It is based on the assumption that national and provincial government gets the majority of the funds and that local government only get 8.8% of the total revenue raised nationally. But the reality is that there are no economic activities taking place in most parts of South Africa. Majority of the little real economic activities that happens in South Africa are concentrated in major cities. The reality is that majority of citizens cannot afford to pay for property rates, levies, municipal services because they are unemployed and get very little services from municipalities. There's no roads, there's no regular rubbish removal, and there's no water and sanitation. In most cases, municipalities is the only economy in town, and everyone is fighting to get municipal resources. The EFF have consistently raised the matter that because local government is the most sphere of government, the majority of the funds must be allocated to local government. We said this because of rational, practical, and based on logic. This logic continues to escape the ruling party and convincingly also escape the minister. The Division of Revenue Bill tabled by the Minister of Finance is proof that the announcement of the COVID-19 economic stimulus package was just a PR exercise. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa announced that municipalities will get 20 billion to support municipalities to provide proper water and sanitation. But in reality, only 11 billion was allocated and the rest of the money was reprioritization exercise, taking from Peter to fund Paul. Over and above, systematic underfunding, corruption, and poor capacity. This means the Division of Revenue tabled by the minister does not make any radical intervention at local government. Our people will only hear about the COVID-19 economic intervention on radio and TV. They will never see it, Chair. The fact of the matter is that the 11 billion was already looted even before it was allocated with clumsy invoices bought by you at USAFE. Unless we reverse the overall equitable share funding model to ensure adequate funding of poor municipalities, we will continue to perpetuate apartheid economy, and whites will continue to enjoy the benefits of apartheid. The EFF will never support a division of revenue bill that will not change the life of our people. We hereby oppose categorically this bill, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Fengwa.
Honorable House Chairperson, on behalf of the IFP, I would like at the outset to offer our sincere condolences on the passing of Her Excellency Zindiswa Mandela, and we hope that the family will find strength and comfort with the words of support and condolence which have been outpouring across the world. Honorable House Chairperson, the greatest single threat, coupled with incompetence, is corruption to service delivery. The COVID-19 pandemic has descended upon us without any warning, no time to prepare. Our normal daily operations have been severely interrupted, and South Africa, like the rest of the world, needed to make life-saving decisions at the expense of economic certainty. The need for a quick decision-making in unprecedented circumstances must not mean that the state abandon models of good governance and sound decision-making. With this in mind, today's tabled Division of Revenue Amendment Bill must play a balancing act and reflect the needs of the time. Overall, the bill has been drafted with the demands that COVID-19 places on us to ensure spending minimizes loss of lives and kickstarting the economy to avoid economic depression. The reallocation of funds needs to foremostly secure the health of our nation through personal protective equipment, additional health capacity, water delivery, and pandemic education. We recognize the efforts made by government to address some of these issues. However, we are concerned about the reduction of certain key areas of the budget. We observe the reduction of 317 million rands in the agriculture support program, which could negatively impact South Africa's food security and almost certainly increase poverty. In the health sector, we note the addition of the 2.8 billion rands for PPEs, ventilators, but no mention of increasing capacity through development and refurbishment of hospitals and clinics, and this is of concern. For this reason, the IFP supports the committee's recommendation for an impact assessment to be conducted by
Babu Sengwa, Kubega, you are frozen. Can you continue?
We're frozen too.
I thought Max Harrell was going to come out and make a beat there.
What's happening with you? Honorable Sengwa, are you still there? You have 1 minute, 42 seconds. We will come back to you. Honorable Vessels.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, whilst we are facing the most dire economic crisis in the history of this country, corruption and mismanagement and looting continues. This budget offers no economic stimulus package, but rather creates further dependence on government and a more social dependency on government. We cannot have this. The Honourable Buthelezi is mistaken. He must take note of the fact that I am not a member of his committee. And he should rather go out into the community and go and look at what is happening. Honourable Buthelezi, whilst there is the expectancy on the taxpayer to fund government projects, there is more and more the question in the minds of the taxpayers as to why they should pay taxes. Want agbare voorsitter, terwyl daar belasting betaal word en die belasting dan aggressief ingevorder word, en dit sluit munisipale heffings en belastings ook in, word dit verdeel aan korrupte owerhede. Word dit gemors, word dit gesteel. En die vraag in almal wat belasting betaal, wat in hierdie tye hard moet werk om daai belasting mee te bring, is hoekom moet hulle dit steeds betaal? Hoekom moet inwoners van munisipaliteite reg oor die land vir vullisverwydering byvoorbeeld betaal, terwyl daar geen vullisverwydering plaasvind nie? Hoekom moet hulle vir dienste betaal wat hulle nooit sien nie? Terwyl daar net belastingverhogings plaasvind en aan die ander kant 'n steel van fondse en korrupsie net al hoe meer endemies word. En dit is die vraag wat die regering gaan moet begin antwoord. Die streep in die sand gaan getrek moet word ten opsigte van korrupsie en wanbestuur. Dit is nie billik en regverdig om van belastingbetalers en inwoners te verwag om aanhoud te betaal terwyl daar nie dienslewering is nie. Dit is totaal en al onbillik. Agbare voorsitter, terwyl belastingbetalers betaal, word die geld gemors en gesteel in hierdie krisistyd. Geld wat veronderstel is om aangewend te word om die pandemie te bestry, word op verhoogde pryse vir items bestee, word gesteel, en ons weet van die beweerde geld wat gesteel is by die werkloosheidsversekeringsfonds onder andere. Ons weet ook van die Oliver Tambo distrik munisipaliteit wat 4 miljoen rand betaal vir deur tot deur bewusmakingsveldtogte van 4 dae, net om mense in te lig te van COVID-19 en hulle betaal 4 miljoen rand daarvoor, terwyl daar nie dienste in daardie munisipaliteite gelewer word nie. Terwyl hospitale nie die kapasiteit het om met hierdie krisis dit te kan meebring nie. Dit moet beantwoord word. Why must people pay tax whilst government does not act on its responsibility to protect its citizens? Why must people pay tax whilst government fail to protect the most vulnerable, especially in our rural areas and on farms? That is the question, Honourable Buthelezi, but you should rather answer and not think that I'm a member of your committee. Government is failing, this budget fails, the Division of Revenue does not address the correct priorities. I thank you.
Thank you. Can I check, Honourable Swart? Can I check first with the Honourable Hlengwa? If you are back, Honourable Hlengwa, are you on platform? You were cut, you froze, and you still have 1 minute 42 seconds. He's not back. No, thank you.
Chairperson?
Yes, Honourable Singh?
Yes, Chairperson, he's having some difficulty there with load shedding, etc. If you can give me an opportunity at some point to use that 1 minute 42 seconds on his behalf.
Okay. Continue.
It doesn't have to be now.
Continue.
Can I continue now?
Yes, Honourable Singh, continue.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson, and we're sorry about that. What we were saying is it back? Okay, continue.
Just a minute, thank you.
Honourable Hlengwa, before you continue, you had 1 minute 42 seconds left on your speech. Can you conclude? Thank you.
All right, now you see, because, all right. Right, thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson Bayang. So what you are saying, therefore, is that for this reason, the IFP supports the committee's recommendation for an impact assessment to be conducted by National Treasury for the 2020 medium-term budget. Under normal circumstances, these challenges are prevalent within government and should by no means be extended under the COVID-19 pandemic and lead to the abuse of public funds. According to the FFC and the Auditor General, local government is crippled stifled by numerous challenges such as its own revenue collection, lack of accountability, poor financial management, and thus failing to fulfill its constitutional mandate effectively and efficiently. Governmental management system to be reflective of the times and protect the additional allocation of funds from possible fraud and corruption. These funds are not additional savings the Treasury is sitting in the bank collecting interest. They have been reprioritized, designed to address community social economic needs. The suspension of some of the important socio-economic programs means that South Africans, especially the poor, will be negatively affected and impacted due to the demands of the pandemic. To come to the party management rather than sheltering them through redeployment. Consequent management needs to be a key focus area in deterring would-be opportunistic criminals from stealing from the most vulnerable of our society. Whilst we respond to the demands of COVID-19 has been upon us, success will only be due to economic recovery. Part of our recovery will require planning of infrastructure-related projects to support and sustain the economy of South Africa. The current suspension of some infrastructure projects places South Africa at increased risk with regards to maintenance and additional capacity of our roads, schools, and hospitals.
Thank you.
Task for
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Sengwa.
Combine stimulation and growth in one plan that guides the strategy for infrastructure and development.
I gave you extra time to finish because you were cut, but I think the best thing is to go to the car again and just find next time. Next time you find, you go back to the car and find connection. Thank you. Your time is done. Thank you very much. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, the ACDP would also...
Honorable Sengwa.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, House Chair. The ACDP would also like to extend our sympathies to the ANC, the family and friends on the passing of Ambassador Zinzi Mandela. Our thoughts and prayers are with you at this time. And we also appreciate the hard work that has gone into processing this bill, the net effect which will be a 43 billion increase, 11 billion to local government and 32.18 to national government. Obviously, provinces will have their budgets affected by the reprioritization, and we do appreciate, having studied the report, that the HIV, TB, malaria and community outreach grant has been increased by 2.8 billion. And it is critical for existing HIV, TB and malaria patients to receive the due care, whilst there's a lot of focus on COVID-19 patients. Patients suffering from other diseases cannot be ignored, and underlying comorbidities definitely make such patients more susceptible to serious, fatal COVID-related complications. And of course, the ACDP, like others, we are outraged by the revelations of what is happening at some of our provincial hospitals, with the one being focused on in the BBC report. One doctor has said this is an epic failure of a deeply corrupt system. We are deeply concerned about the unusual number of stillborn infants at this particular hospital, and we are sure that it is more widely experienced. Let us just bear in mind that after the first month of the lockdown, 50,000 people had died of other illnesses in our nation. By now, that probably has doubled or even increased. HIV, AIDS, TB, malaria, and of course not detracting from COVID-19. But we need to have those figures. We should have those figures every day on the news as well, of people that are dying of other diseases as well of COVID-19. And so we from the ACDP's perspective are very concerned about the expenditure, about the working conditions. Many of our nursing staff and doctors are doing immensely good work, but we are concerned about the possibility of the misappropriation of these funds. And again, as we've done in the past, we question the allocation and, of course, the expenditure. We call on real-time auditing as far as possible, and where there's been any indication of any misappropriation of corruption, for speedy action to be taken by the NPA, by the Hawks, by the Asset Forfeiture Unit, and by the Special Investigating Unit. What we can ill afford now is that in addition to the tragic deaths of thousands of people from diseases and the dire public financial situation is worsened corruption and looting of state resources by government officials. We must act now. We must ensure that government is good stewards of these funds and that we exercise due oversight to protect that funding. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Swartz. Honorable Nkwankwa.
Thank you very much, House. The United Democratic Movement athi sifuna uqale sithi dudwini akuhlanga lungehlanga kukumkanikazi noloyiso nakumarharhabe nakuzinziswa ambassador uzinziswa Mandela sithi nilale kakuhle madlovu. House Chair, our problem is that what we've discovered is that the ANC government is just incapable of coming up with interventions that could help to disentangle the poorest of the poor from a comprehensive web of oppressive economic entanglements that are caused by their own economic mismanagement, but that are also caused by COVID-19. Many might ask, why are we making that assertion or that point? Simply because we have a government as that decided to balance the budget in the past on the backs of the poor. If you look at reprioritization or spending cuts in various departments, they target departments where you know that the funds that have been taken out of institution, for instance. So it says one thing in the media about its commitment to land restitution or land redistribution, but does another in terms of allocations, but also that affects the ability of those departments to be able to revive and reignite the of rural government. Talks about driving a transformative agenda, but takes money away from the higher education sector, in particular your previously disadvantaged higher education, which will help to bridge the gap advantage for universities. It's the same government that takes money from the provincial infrastructure grant, which will help with infrastructure for basic education, building of schools in the townships, building of schools in rural areas where we have a huge backlog. And we say that we're using this opportunity to drive a transformative agenda. Fortunately, even when it uses the same in the past without a clear program of action, because it is exactly those statements of hope which were made in the past without clear timeframes and clear commitments that have actually gotten us to where we are, where the debt to GDP ratio is expected to be more than 80%. You have a government that is incapable of making decisive interventions in sectors of the economy. Posa, for example, on the one strategy, spend on infrastructure development, including investments from infrastructure maintenance. How are you going to reignite growth in such circumstances? In Eastern Cape and other provinces, how I wish about COVID-19 so that because Baba COVID-19. I nearly tell 32 minutes. You have a government that is more committed to funding SAA rather than spending.
Thank you.
There's sabotage. We don't support Lompet.
Next time, get a better space for connectivity. You were also breaking, but we could hear what you were saying. The next speaker, okay, before we get to good, can I just verify if ATM is not there? I don't have a name. ATM? Abeko. Okay. Honorable August from Good.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good would also like to extend their sincere condolences to the Mandela family for the loss of Zinzi Mandela, and we will keep the family in our prayers. Honourable members, government spending has been drastically realigned to prioritise our defence against COVID-19. At the same time, even as we head for the peak of the pandemic, government must see beyond the disaster and lay the seeds of the economic revival that is to come. This new economy must be different to the old economy. The new economy has to prioritise uplifting the daily life experiences and the dignity of our poor people. Yes, we must create and recreate jobs, but not the kind of jobs that keep most of our people firmly in their positions at the bottom of the social pecking order. As we build the industrial sector and create infrastructure, we must build new types of jobs and working conditions that contribute to the development of individuals, communities, and an inclusive society. Before we get there, the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill must contribute to strengthening our health system and prioritizing the continuation of education. Today we are here to sign off on a bill that seeks to determine equitable slices of the revenue pie for national, provincial, and local departments. Revenue that must improve people's lives and meet our environmental obligations. In order to maximize bang for our buck, promote the transparency and strengthen accountability, we must continuously re-examine and strengthen reactive controls, corrective controls, internal prevention controls, and supply chain management controls by using blockchain. It is not good enough for words like accountability, transparency, and consequence management to only echo in these chambers. If we allow this to happen, the words become empty, and poverty, homelessness, hunger, undereducation, and inadequate health care reign. Honourable Chair, good continues to call for the advancement of economic, social, environmental, and spatial justice in our spending. Good calls for contract and consequent management to be implemented across the government departments. And good calls for corrupt politicians and civil servants to be prosecuted and sent to prison. Simply put, South Africa cannot afford to spend more money on inquiries where those questioned and prosecuted continue to walk free and without facing the real consequences that our criminal justice system should impose. As we implement this budget, let's show South Africans that we are serious about spending every cent in the interest where it matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Shaikh Imam Mansour.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. The National Freedom Party supports the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill tabled here today. Now, Honourable House Chair, it was clear that before COVID-19, we were experiencing difficulties. Economic growth was down. Unemployment was increasing. We did not anticipate COVID-19. But let us be realistic, it's here. So while it is here, we have to now find solutions, and we've got to find that additional money, which we don't have. Because if we didn't have it pre-COVID-19, we're not going to have it right now. But the point is, you're going to have to find the money. Now, whilst we are not satisfied or happy that money is being redirected, we don't have a choice. Now, if you talk about infrastructure development, which is where we said many a times in this house that we can create a lot of jobs out of, but this is where we are taking money away from. Again, we didn't have a choice. If you look at the health sector, and in this very house, most of us, I won't say all of us, are promoting universal health care. And that too is going to be affected as a result of taking away resources from them. But I think what we must understand is this. Given the difficult situation that we are faced with right now, we have to do things differently to what we've done in the past. It means that we have to do more with less, whether we like it or we don't. So we have to do more with less. Now, in doing that and in having said that, I think what is very important is to ensure that we now enhance the capacity of those people that are given the responsibility to implement and administer at all spheres of government. But in line with that, we need to ensure that there is accountability and consequence management when people do not perform. Because we're not going to get the money. Let us be honest about it. There is no additional resources available. It has to be taken from Peter to give to Paul. We must understand that. But we can come together and do things differently. You know, I always hear the issue of South African Airways. Yes, it is becoming a problem when you have to keep bailing out SOEs. But I'd like some of you to assist me. Let us go and interrogate and investigate this Coleman Andrews, who took our entire fleet and sold it for nothing, and eventually got a contract to rent out or lease out the same plane. Let us do that as well. Let us be, or let us act at all given time in the interest of all South Africans. None of us are perfect, but together I believe we can find solutions, and we can succeed in our interest in the people on the ground. The National Freedom Party supports this bill tabled here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mohlomphehi Makgoshi Dikgang. Mohlomphehi Makgoshi.
Hello.
Makgoshi.
Thank you.
Yes. Continue, ma.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. The African National Congress supports the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. Honorable members, allow me to start my debate by paying tribute to our health frontline workers. These are men and women who are putting everything to save the lives of South Africans against the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. Just to say to them, your patriotism of dedication have not gone unnoticed. I also need to stress that we ourselves, as citizens of this country, we must help ourselves by doing the correct things. The President of the Republic, His Excellency, Cyril Ramaphosa, was correct when he said, open quote, the power to defeat coronavirus is in our hands. It is about each of us taking personal responsibility wherever we are and whoever we are for curbing the spread of the disease. This brings me to the focus of the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. The bill is the response of the government to this unforeseen shock, COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know that this has created chaos to health and the economy all over the world. We have not been spared. No scientists saw it until it engulfed the whole world. It is a pandemic which cannot be used as a political football or to score cheap political points. Our people are dying and we need God. This is real. Therefore, health response by government is non-negotiable. In the provincial equitable share, 15 billion rand has been reprioritized to respond direct to COVID-19 challenges. The President reported on Sunday that we have made available almost 28,000 hospital beds, almost 28,000 hospital beds for COVID-19 patients, 37,000 quarantine beds in private and public facilities, and many other health interventions to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Honorable members, 1,700 additional ventilators are to be delivered between now and August. Billions are also reprioritized to ensure that our frontline workers, the doctors, nurses, ambulances, drivers, personnel, and etc., receive personal protective clothing. Also, there is a need to decrease load of work and pressure to our foot soldiers. We want to ensure that as they perform this patriotic duty, they also save for their sake and that of their families. I just want to convey to these patriots that South Africa is very much indebted to you. Honorable members, 5 billion rands is used to augment the education catch-up plan, social welfare support, provision of quarantine sites by public works. This will ensure that the teachers and learners engage in teaching and learning in conducive environment. The doors of learning and culture shall be opened, so said our elders. there has been a very mischievous narrative out there where some people were saying the government is now ignoring other underlying diseases. Nothing can be further from the truth. For example, honorable members, there is additional 2.8 billion rands, which increases the HIV, TB, malaria, and community outreach grant to 27.2 billion rands for 2020-2021. This is a welcomed increase because it has been scientifically proven that if these comorbidities are not attended to, they make those patients more susceptible to COVID-19. There shall be houses, security, and comfort. The architects of the democracy in 1955 enjoined us to ensure that as part of dismantling apartheid, our people must be provided with houses. This is again an area where a lot must still be done. It has also shown the damage that apartheid did. Despite the many houses that have been built, COVID has exposed fault lines here. It makes it difficult for our people to social distance and self-isolate because many people are cramped in small houses and informal settlements. Provincial Emergency Housing Infrastructure Grant receives an additional 378 million rands. Honorable members, this proves the responsiveness of the ANC to deal with unforeseen circumstances. Despite the budgetary pressure, the ANC has again prioritized the plight of the poorest of the poor, ensuring that the necessary safety net is provided. Honorable members, the effect of apartheid and colonialism was the hardest in the rural areas. These are these places which were labor reserves. When Johannesburg, Durban, Bloemfontein, Kimberley, to name but a few, were being developed by the sweat and blood of men and women from the rural areas, there was no development in their areas. This is evidenced by the lack of infrastructure like roads, dams, reliable electricity, hospitals, and etc. Water that is taken for granted in urban areas, truly speaking, is gold in rural areas. That is the challenge of traditional leaders, Amakosi, and rural municipalities. The urban-rural divide is therefore everyone to see. COVID-19 has further deepened this crisis. The inequality between urban and rural must be addressed. This being the month of Madiba, who was very passionate about rural areas and traditional leadership, we must confront this challenge head-on. To make the point, allow me to quote his wise words on poverty and inequality. He said, open quote, "Massive poverty and obscene inequality are such terrible scourges of our times that they have to rank alongside slavery and apartheid as social evils." To close quote. To honor Madiba and her departed daughter, Ambassador Zinzi, let us resolve to fight with all what we have to deal with the rural-urban divide. In Tsonga, we say, Indlovu Yayina. The ANC supports the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. House Chairperson, I thank you.
Before I go to Honorable Hendricks, can I just check if the AIC is there? Babun Chaisa, Babu Galo, Nikona.
Chairperson, thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Continue, Babun Chaisa. Kuluma Babun Chaisa Siglalel.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me start off by conveying our condolences to the Kingdom of Amakhabe and the Mandela family as they have lost their loved ones. Chairperson, COVID-19 brought a lot of challenges to the South African economy, which was already in the technical research. The contraction of South African economy by 7.2%, and also the reduction in collection of the revenue by 300 billion rand cannot be taken lightly. The bill, of course, should be supported because it is meant to respond to that COVID-19 and the impact that it has in our public finances. It has to address the changes in our equitability vision for all local spheres of government, that is local, provincial, and national. Therefore, an amendment to the 2020 Division of Revenue Act number 4 was necessary in order to address these challenges. Chairperson, in order to respond to COVID-19, budget deficit was to be increased and the resources had to be reprioritized so that we can deal with these challenges. Of course, the Minister of Finance warned against too much borrowing, that we should not borrow more than we can repay. But of course, we have got to borrow money from other financial institutions. So as AIC, we support this debate, rather this bill, because it does go for the service delivery. Otherwise, if it is not supported, then the people of our country now will not get any service delivery. Though there are many challenges, but we do support the bill. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Baba Nyonso, PAC ukhona? PAC? Okay. We pass Honorable Hendricks. Babu Ntombela ukhona?
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you. You will continue after Honorable Hendricks. Continue. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, Zindi Mandela was a combatant from the cradle to the grave. Her first cries as a baby in 1960 was for freedom. And we are going to miss her because we were looking forward to her being the mother of the nation after she has completed all her assignments for the nation. Honorable Chair, Al-Jamaa supports the bill. However, we want to tell the committee that has deliberated on this bill that their name is now in the box. Their name is in the box because they will be held accountable to make sure that what they have appropriated for the nation is not looted. We don't want the Deputy Chief Justice in years to come when there's another Zondo Commission to ask, where were you? How could you allow the money that was so hard earned to be looted? So we support the bill, but we just want to tell the committee that their name is in the box to ensure proper oversight that the monies that they have now allocated are not looted. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Hendricks. Honourable Sarupen from the DA.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Chair, this lockdown crisis and the current pandemic has exposed the impact of decades of ANC mismanagement in provinces and municipalities. And the consequence of this is at our time of greatest need, entire towns and villages are without water due to infrastructure collapse, and healthcare systems are ill-equipped to treat patients. The harrowing stories of patients fighting over oxygen should bring shame onto the ANC. But instead, we see mutual backpatting and self-congratulations. This mindset is so pervasive that we saw a cadre-deployed civil servant in the form of a junior speechwriter, a Mr. Saul Musco, write an opinion piece riddled with insults and falsehoods, attacking the people who were sounding the alarm bells on the ANC's failures during this lockdown crisis. It is against this backdrop that we look at the Division of Revenue Bill, and the amendments are basically reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. Let's start with the conditional grants, which are being massively cut to provinces. The Fiscal and Finance Commission found that these grants are output-driven with no care for outcomes, and there are no links between the budgets and the outputs itself, making it impossible to measure the efficiency of these grants. No impact indicators exist for measuring the success of the grants, and the Fiscal and Finance Commission found that there are duplication in outputs to artificially improve dashboards and make the many millionaire managers in government look good while doing very little. When you look at local governments, to whom an additional 11 billion rands are being allocated, the situation becomes even more dire, because only 20 of 257 municipalities have a clean audit. and the bulk of these clean orders come from DA-run municipalities. 28 municipalities couldn't be audited at all because they didn't even have financial statements to submit. No guessing who runs the municipalities. Across 200 municipalities in the last financial year, 2 billion rand was lost to corruption and unaccounted for expenditure, and 32 billion rands were classified as irregular expenditure at local government level. Municipalities are spending R1 billion a year in consultants, which is only made necessary as a result of appointing politically connected staff who cannot do their jobs. And ESCOM debt from provinces' municipalities reaches a total of 37 billion rands. When you look at the circumstance and the bigger picture, it's clear that the ANC's failures in government have made this lockdown crisis far worse for ordinary citizens than in many other countries. And the ANC cannot be trusted any further. The DA therefore rejects this amendment bill.
I've done. Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Kaiser. Honourable Kaiser from the ANC.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Let me join the millions of our people in this country on behalf of the African National Congress, to express messages of condolences to the family of Mandela for the passing away of the ambassador of Denmark, Comrade Zizi Mandela. May his soul rest in peace. Firstly, let me also immediately express that the African National Congress supports this bill. The debate on the division of revenue amendment bill is a debate of a special type. It arises because of the June 2020 supplementary budget and is designed specifically to facilitate changes in the equitable division of nationally raised revenue among the spheres of government and changes to provincial and local government grant allocations. We are called upon to politically debate the proposed amendments and their impact upon government policy. We are called upon to ensure that despite the enforced changes, these changes remain true to the ANC government policy alignment. Honourable Chair, the amendment bill is a response to COVID-19 and reflects the impact this has had on public finances across the spheres of government. The increase in spending in response to COVID-19 is funded in part by increasing the budget deficit and in part by reprioritizing resources. The 130 billion is what has to be reprioritized, and 30 billion of which is through the amended division of revenue bill. This obviously raises concern as to what the impact of the original intention will be. The debate as the amendment division of revenue has a specific purpose and intention. It is not a return, a rerun like others things. It is not a rerun of the issues that are debated in the revised fiscal framework. Neither it is an adjustments appropriation bill debate. The reality of the supplementary budget and this division of revenue amendment bill is that the reprioritization has been emphasized, and the essence of the amendment bill seeks to sustain policy funding whilst reprioritizing goods and services in the main and savings from the level 5 and 4 lockdown. Honourable Chair, we know that provincial grants are adjusted downwards and local government conditional grants are adjusted downwards, whilst there is a reprioritization within the local government conditional grants to be used as part of COVID-19 responses. Whilst an emphasis on infrastructure investment and development as a means of stimulating economic growth and job creation has been pronounced, we note the significant reduction of infrastructure-related conditional grants. Stability at local sphere of government is of paramount importance and should not be compromised, particularly at this time when municipalities are at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Whilst we know the proposals that conditional grants be suspended, requisite research should be undertaken into the financial and socio-economic impact of these suspensions. We are deeply conscious that provinces have equally been called upon to reprioritize, and the hard choices that have been made on what monies should be reprioritized. The medium-term budget policy statement in October must reflect how we move forward. Reprioritization at this point in time is understandable, but the demands of the developmental state, democratic developmental state, and the economic reconstruction plan of the ANC and its government will require a far greater expansionary approach financed through a far greater role of the financial sector, the Reserve Bank, a new state bank, and development financial institution. There is a very bad tendency that has emerged during this period of COVID, despite the fact that the government has rapidly moved and introduced measures to cushion the impact through a dedicated 500 billion rand containment package, is the practice of employers to retrench workers. And this is what they have been trying to do during the COVID surge. The more unemployment you create, the further away from realizing growth in the economy we shall drift. This is economic logic. Programs are in place and employers must consciously use this. COVID-19 must not end up providing the private sector with a reason to embark on a massive retrenchment like what Walmart, your friends, are trying to do now, threatening the social future of our people, especially workers. Most parties in this debate hold a limited understanding of what this point in time actually is. For the ANC, it is far more than the context of COVID-19. It is a moment in time when we have to lay foundations for something new to emerge from the pandemic we are living through. This is dialectics. Something has to die for something new to emerge. So even before the post-COVID-19 period, the foundations of economic reconstruction, growth and transformation plan has to be laid by the ANC. This plan will consciously seek to speed economic growth and social inclusion. What we must see in the October medium-term budget policy statement are the foundations of how the policy and finance are going to build the foundations of economic reconstruction, growth, and transformation plan. It is the ANC that answered the question right from the start of the pandemic of what is to be done to build a fast-growing, more resilient, and more inclusive economy. Not what the DA is saying, that it has been a remorse, but what we believe that the apartheid is the one which has brought the yellow remorse in the land. Now we are struggling to correct the yellow remorse what yellow market. And in the COVID context, the ANC strive to unite society around a series of bold, decisive decisions. The ANC approach is to identify.
Kaiso, your time.
We want to also dismiss the fact that the invoice that you are referring that the district municipality of OR Tambo has not paid that invoice. And the mayor has taken a decision that that money will not be. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Daten Tombela usaliteng. Agek.
Honorable Chair, I'm still around. Thank you, Honorable Kaiser. We now call the next speaker will be the Honorable the Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, House Chair, honorable members in the House and those who joining the debate via the virtual system. I would have loved to be in the House to join you in this debate physically. Unfortunately, I've been unable to come to Cape Town, but nevertheless, I'm able to join via this platform. Let me begin by thanking the Honorable Buthelezi and the Honorable Mahlangu for processing this massive amount of data that we presented before the committee and for working tirelessly in these difficult circumstances to conclude the conversations in the committee, complete the report, and make the recommendations before this honorable House. I really heartily thank you, and you continue to show to the work of the Ministry of Finance and the National Treasury and the government of the Republic of South Africa. I thank you very much because in the body of the report, you have sought to amplify some of the work that was presented before you by the National Treasury team and made it easier for all of us to understand even more deeper the challenges that we face. Let me reiterate what we're seeking to do here, once again, House Chair. One, confronted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had to shift resources to against COVID-19. We have had to reprioritize expenditure items. So there's no doubt whatsoever, honorable members, that yes, we have reprioritized. And I think we need to understand the difficult situation in which we're in. Number two, faced with a contracting economy where we are going to lose plus minus 300 billion rand in tax revenues, it is therefore unavoidable that the consolidated budget deficit will be higher at 15.7%, that the budget deficit itself will be somewhere around 14% as well. And the report does differentiate and also draw the relationship between the consolidated budget deficit and the budget deficit, so I won't go into that. That means that these budget deficits are large, much larger than we would have wanted to be. And therefore, this has meant that we have to mobilize additional resources from international and domestic sources. It is in that context that we have approached the BRICS Bank, the New Development Bank. We've approached the IMF, we have approached the African Development Bank, we've approached the World Bank. But we've also created market mechanisms through the National Credit Guarantee Scheme to ensure that money continues to flow in the economy to increase liquidity for firms to access this funding to allow the wheels of the economy to start turning now that we're at level 3, enhanced level 3. Third, and finally, I want to emphasize the point which I've made before, that we should seek going forward to be on a zero-based budgeting system. That system will allow us to prioritize even more those items which are unavoidable, are growth enhancing, and will assist in propelling the economy going forward, whilst continuing to support our people. I want to end off, House Chair, by making 2 points. The first one is that, yes, Honorable Hlengwa, we have to do an impact assessment, and I don't have to go into detail about what that means. We have to ensure that every cent reaches the purpose for which it was budgeted. We have to ensure that the thieves and wolves at the door are kept away. We have to ensure that our people indeed benefit from whatever little that we have. As we say in Sipedi, the children in the house share the head of a locust. And that's what we must seek to do, share the head of the locust, no matter how small it is. Secondly, I'd like to say that it is incorrect for honorable vessels to threaten a tax revolt in the House of Assembly. That is a very serious threat you are making, and I'm sure that threat cannot be repeated outside the House because you're going to get into serious trouble. Finally, the honorable member of the DA says that he has written letters to me instructing me not to do this or the other thing. I think it is incorrect to use this House to try and present yourself as of superior mind with a superiority complex, which seeks to undermine the efforts of those of us who work day and night to make a success of this country. I do not take kindly to anybody who comes and displays some kind of racial superiority here. I hate it, I don't like it, and desist from that. We know what we're doing, we'll continue doing what we're doing. Honorable Chair, once again, thank you very much for your support. And at this hour of need, I would have thought that all of us will rally behind this bill, support it for the benefit of our people in a very difficult situation. I thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Why did you think races will ever be different in any...
Last refuge of the
races will be racist forever.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Tombela.
I have concluded, House Chair. I have concluded. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. I heard what you were saying. There were just too many disturbances here. Ka Sepedi le ge o e boletše ka Sekgowa ba re bana ba motho ba ngwathelana hlogo ya tšie. E jwalo ka
Sesotho sa bo rena.
A re batle tlhogo, re batla the whole body.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. That, honorable members, concludes
House Chairperson, can we please call for your attention?
Okay.
Yes, honorable member.
We indicated to the table staff that we are voting against. That is why even in the contents of our submissions, we are against the adoption of the Division of Revenue Bill as presented. And we want to record that and call for a division as well.
Come on, Honorable Shivambo. That process has not yet come. We are getting there.
Please,
you will get the opportunity to raise that concern and raise that which you want to do. We are still getting there.
Who's the speaker here?
I was just saying that concludes the debate. Honorable members.
Relax, Floyd, your time is coming, relax.
Are there any objections to the bill being read a second time?
House Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Mazona.
House Chairperson, the DA would like their opposition noted and we would like to call for a division, please.
Thank you very much. A division has been called. A division having been called, the bells will be rung for 10 minutes.
That ntombela imametse na 10 minutes.
Andate, metsotso ya leshome.
Wa re bolanda.
O batla ho ya kae ntate? O batla ho ya kae? Dula hae 10 minutes. Honorable members, thank you very much. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, honorable members, the Speaker has determined that in accordance with the rules, a manual voting procedure will be used for this division. According to the table staff, it has been confirmed that the requisite number of members physically present in the chamber and on the visual platform to take this decision has indeed formed a quorum. Party whips will then be given an opportunity to confirm the number of their members present and indicate if they vote for or against the question. A member who wishes to abstain or vote against the party vote may do so by informing the chair. Order. Having confirmed that we have the requisite quorum, we will now proceed. Voting will now commence. The doors to the chamber will be locked and members will not be allowed to enter the virtual platform until voting is concluded. Whips, could you confirm the number of your members present in the chamber and on the virtual platform and indicate if they vote for or against the question? The table will also assist in that particular regard. So there are party whips ready to record the votes of their members who are present. I will start with the ANC. ANC, Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The African National Congress here in the House in plenary, we are 9. In the virtual platform, the ANC has 192, totaling up to 201. We are voting in support. Thank you.
Chief Whip. DA.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Inside the House, the DA has 12 members. On the virtual platform, the DA has 59 members. In total, the DA has 71 members, and we are voting against.
Thank you very much. EFF?
No, the EFF has got 34 on the virtual platform and we're voting against.
Virtual platform and?
We are voting against with contempt. We are rejecting this division of revenue bill because it's reactionary.
Honorable Shivambu, we have 2 platforms. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, we're all on the virtual platform.
Okay, thank you very much. IFP?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. We are 8 on the virtual platform voting in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. FF Plus?
Honourable Chairperson, we've got 2 members in the House and 8 on the virtual platform, total 10 voting against.
Thank you. ACDP?
Thank you, House Chair. We are 3 on the virtual platform, 1 in the chamber voting against. Thank you very much.
Thank you. UDM? Honorable Mkwangwa? UDM? So it's a network problem. UDM has been around. I'll come back to you. ATM? ATM is also quiet. Good.
Thank you. We have 2 members on the virtual platform and we in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir. NFP.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. 1 in the House and in support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. AIC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. 1 on virtual in support of the bill.
Thank you very much. Coke. PAC. Al-Jama.
Al-Jama is 1 on virtual and we vote for.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I'm going back to UDM because I know UDM has been here. Okay, you're not there. Honorable members, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The voting session is now closed. We will request the chairperson, Boroto, to assist with the addition of numbers.
They're still adding, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Chair, the results are as follows. The no, 119, the yes, 214.
Abstention? None.
No abstentions.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the results are as follows. The ayes have it at 214, with a noes at 190, with no abstention.
Long live the ANC, long live.
Long live the ayes have it. Always
Long live.
You're gonna go down. You're going down, ANC.
You are down alone. You are going down alone. I wish you could go down. Where were you when we were struggling?
Chairperson, you've got to adjourn the House. And it's
corruption.
Order, honorable members.
Amit.
Usasekhona, Chair.
Pinky mute.
Chair.
Which Pinky?
Can
Yeah, what, Chairperson?
Oben check out who Usasekhona?
Yeah, but your corner, Chairperson, I was just saying the question is accordingly agreed to, and the Secretary will read the bill a second time.
Division of Revenue Amendment Bill.
Well read. Well read. Well read. Hey, Ginger.
Thank you very much, honorable members. That concludes the business for the day.
Order.
Yeah?
House Chair.
Sorry, honorable. Sorry, order.
Can you please mute?
Honorable Chair.
Yes. Should I conclude? You are muted.
Conclude, Member.
You are muted.
I shall never forget the sacrifice.
Yes, honorable Chair.
Can I conclude? Honorable,
Yes, conclude from your side, Honorable Chair.
okay, honorable members, as the bill has been agreed to, it will be sent to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence. That concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned. Thank you.
Those races who are there,
People are dying.
they think better than us. We're not going down. We will never go down.
Honorable,
Never go down.
you.